Hi everyone, thanks for turning up on a Tuesday evening. We'll get started, and I'll let people in who are latecomers. Don't want to keep you guys waiting too long. Today we're talking with Pippa Topp, who I've known for quite a while. Pippa, maybe best you introduce yourself in case I say the wrong things.
Hello, I'm Pippa Topp. I've been struggling with my introduction lately because I don't really know what to call myself. I'd say I'm a product person is probably best way to describe me. I've worked in product and tech for about 15 years now. And currently I am working in a mix of roles between interim product leadership and consultancy, as well as coaching. I had a range of experience over different types of companies doing different types of product. So yeah, excited
Fantastic.
to be here.
Thanks very much, Pippa. And in case you don't realise, people on the call, this is ran by RightToLeft, which is my company, and we do product consulting and coaching. So check that out if you're interested at all at RightToLeft.io. We're going to talk today about some of the things Pippa talked recently about at the Mind the Product conference in London, if you were lucky enough to be there, and has followed up in a few blog posts and on Mind the Product recently as well. And we want to chat through some of this. And I think it starts with having a discussion, first of all, about why you moved into product, how you found your way into the product management space. That context is really important to get to the point when we think about the secrets to manage a successful team and what pockets of brilliance is that we'll get to later. But we need to first of all start with how that journey kicked off for you. So you want to share how that happened?
Sure. I think like most people who got into product around the time I did, it wasn't necessarily an intentional move where you sort of put your career in a certain way. So I need to let the dog out. Sort of designed your career in the way to get you into product. I was actually working in project management, and an opportunity came up to try out product and product management. But if I'm really honest, I think if I rewind back to going to university age, so 18, I was doing psychology, and I actually really wanted to go and do psychology at university, and a number of reasons I didn't end up doing that. But what was interesting was my interest in people and bringing people together and collaborating with people never really waned. And so project management was the first area I could see of how I could apply those skills of bringing people together. And then it was only later when I got that first taste of product, I was like, oh, this doesn't just satisfy my sort of organization and collaborative love, it also satisfies creativity, learning, curiosity, all those things that come together to make great product management.
That's fantastic. So in many ways, like many people, and probably people on the call and people who will listen to this later on the recording and on YouTube, it wasn't you didn't start out going, I want to be in product. You fell into it almost by accident on that journey because it fulfilled the things you're good at, fulfilled your strengths, and excited you. I'm really interested in I know that the journey itself was pretty nuanced between project and product. How did that transition feel? What was the pains?
Okay, so I had been working as a project manager in both tech projects. I'd done tech project management, but I'd also done business change project management. So I'd had a wealth of experience around change and understanding how people deal with change. So when the opportunity came up to do product, I was thinking, I'm not qualified to build a product. So the bit that jarred for me was I thought I had to be the one who had all the answers, and that seemed really scary. And it was actually only once I started to get into it, I was like, oh, actually, no, it's about learning. It's about setting an assumption and finding out if that assumption is true or not. And I felt that was quite freeing. I did find it hugely intimidating because the people who had been doing product for a while at that point, seemed to have this sort of air of confidence about them. They spoke, a really popular phrase at the time was being a mini CEO or CEO of the product. And I was there thinking in a very, like, I was in my mid-20s, and I was also often the only woman in a room. So I was there looking around at these confident blokes going, I'm not cut out for this. I'm not a CEO. I can't possibly do this. This is going to be a disaster. So it was fueled with self-doubt, really. I think the thing that got me through was thankfully Medium had really taken off at the time, and there was starting to be a wealth of Medium articles about product management, which was something to hang on to, as well as, and I can't sort of understate this enough, I had some really great support from people, like technical people I was working alongside, who really helped me fill that gap, because I was thinking, when I came into product management, I'm going to have to be really technical, and I don't come from a technical background, so I'm not going to do a good job. And actually these people helped me navigate some of the trickier parts that I think if I hadn't had that support, I might have given up.
Yeah, that's super interesting and so important, that support, whether it's, we both see that today in our roles when we coach product leaders and product managers. But every leader should be supporting their teams and being that supportive person as well. It's crucial for everybody, even now when the role is a bit more defined than perhaps it was a few years back. I think that's interesting, the fact that the role has evolved so much in the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
That there's how do you feel about there being a proper way of doing product management? Because there seems to be some well-defined proper ways that we should all be doing it.
It's fair to say I don't feel great about it, and if I think about it, proper defines fixed. It's like there's a fixed way of doing it, and something can't evolve if it's fixed. So I don't like proper because it's not allowing for adaptation. And I think if we held on to there's one right way of doing it, there's one proper way, then we're suddenly limiting the amount of people who can actually who are able to do product management. And that's not from their own skills or capabilities, that's the environments they're in, because the way we practice product is so dictated by the environment we're in, be it the type of organization, how it's set up, the size, who your leader is, who owns the company, how it's funded. All these things have some kind of influence over how the company runs, how they choose to build things and get things out to customers. And that's going to have a direct impact on how you as a product manager or a product leader are going to be able to influence how that product's developed.
Yeah, definitely. So what we're saying is there's many ways to crack the nut.
Yeah,
there are some preferred approaches, but even those won't fit every organization. And there's nobody is doing all of the things that might be in some of the books 100%.
yeah, and there are so many things, right? So the role itself, I mean, it's like 10 roles in one. I'm not saying I want to go back to the old way of how we develop technology, but in the old way we developed technology, there were people filling roles, people per role pretty much across the board. And now product manager kind of is a catch-all for a number of those roles. And in some organizations, really, they're stretching it quite thin. And so there's a huge amount of pressure. I mean, I don't speak to any product manager who isn't crazy busy, who isn't like being stretched really far, and they don't have any capacity to do more. And if they then have this weight of expectation that they should be doing all of this stuff and they should be operating at this level across all these different things, it's actually really dangerous. It's a dangerous expectation, and it can be quite damaging, I think, to individuals' mental health and stress levels, and that has a knock-on effect to everything.
Cool, definitely. So this leads quite nicely into the pockets of brilliance, which is the framework that you've got that I really like. And before we dig into it, as we've led into it quite well, why is it so important? Why did you come up with it?
So I never set out to sort of create a new framework, because there's a slight irony in going, there's loads of frameworks and there's loads of thought leaders, and here's another idea. But I was asked to speak at Mind the Product, and similarly, in the way I seized the opportunity to go into product in the first place, being given a literal stage to stand on in front of thousands of people to share your views, I wanted to be very intentional and thoughtful about the message I wanted to put out. Now, I've spent a lot of time reflecting on my own values and what's important to me. And I've also worked very hard across my career and pushed myself at times to really stressful breaking points. And I know I'm not alone, and particularly product leaders who are trying to be all things to all people. And I just thought, how can I reassure people and hopefully put sort of a comforting hand on a shoulder and say, you're doing some great work, and don't do yourself down. This is a really hard job. And rather than beat ourselves up, let's celebrate the things that we have done really well. I think about things that are important to me and things that have driven me. And I am an ambitious person. And when I think of the word ambitious and what the meaning is behind it, it's around a drive and a desire and a determination to be successful. And so the immediate follow-up question I have to myself and to anyone I coach who says their ambition is, but what is success for you? And I think that's the crux of it when it came to the talk, which was, we've got everybody in a room, arguably all ambitious people, but have they taken a step to say, but what is success for me in the context I'm in? Because that context is different for everybody. And if we set success at a level that is totally unattainable because of things that are outside our control, we're just going to be set up for disappointment, failure, stress, sort of self-flagellation, all these things. So it really came from a desire to want to hopefully inspire people to continue to be ambitious and to do great work, but also recognize the realistic measures of success for them within their context, and celebrate what they do well.
Fantastic. I love it. And that discussion there, like people who are aspirational or trying to push themselves or be excellent or top performers or whatever it might be. When I think about that and work with teams and coach product leaders to help drive their teams forwards, that secret focus is always about habits. It's always the work that I find myself repeatedly working with leaders who are looking to create, outcome leaders who are trying to create great outcomes for the product team and deliver great things for the customer, focusing on creating repeated habits that the team can drill, that they can perform really well, that they do regularly, that they can do with their eyes closed, whether that's making sure that they're talking to customers, and having, some of them create habits like Talk About Thursday, where they speak to a customer every single Thursday, no matter what. The whole team's got to do talk to customers and ensure product discovery is in the process. But it's those habits that seem to be so critical to make, which differentiates people who struggle to perform at the level they want and people who are performing and reaching those aspirations. And I think your Pockets of Brilliance framework really encapsulates how to encourage and identify and celebrate those habits and keep them going, without using the word habit. So it'd be great if you could share what the Pockets of Brilliance, what is a pocket of brilliance? What's that look like? What is it?
So, sorry, the dog.
Right.
So the Pockets of Brilliance is really the outcome of a set of ingredients, as a formula, if you will, which is broken up into values, capabilities, relationship with people, and then recognizing how to adapt that to your context. So I think the starting point for me is always values, whether that's coaching one-to-one or a team or a function, whatever it is, because your values are what drives you. And then you have behaviors that come from your values, that you demonstrate your values through. So when I think about the sort of habits, I think about, right, okay, where are the values? If we're talking from a functional point of view and product functional point of view, I see there are 4 core values to product, which are curiosity, learning, collaboration, and creativity. I think if you have those values as your core, and you can demonstrate that regardless of the type of organization you're in, because you can be curious even if you can't do all the research you want to do, and you can be collaborative even if you've been dictated a solution. There are still always ways that you can keep these values at your core, which is why I love a values model, because it allows that flexibility. Then the capabilities part is really about upskilling. So, and what we typically think about when we think of sort of that personal development of where do I want to get to in my product career. So if I'm thinking of a team, a product team, I'm going, where is everybody's capabilities and who needs a bit of coaching where, and how can we upskill? Again, being mindful of the context you're in. So I'm not going to upskill somebody in, say, A/B testing if I know we have no data and we don't have the software or the capability to support A/B testing. It's just not going to be relevant for this team. However, if there's an opportunity to introduce data, then we can start training the whole capability out for a team, and seeing how we can introduce that and build it out there. And then lastly, we have the people stuff. So I've talked about values and capabilities, and they're very much things that you as an individual can do, and you can do them well, and you can demonstrate them well. But really, it only comes together when you bring in other people and you're able to work well with other people and challenge people and have things like difficult conversation and feel that you can be vulnerable in front of people to push yourself a little bit further. So those are the sort of key components. And ultimately, wherever you are, you have to first of all recognize the context you're in, to know what you're going to be able to do and what perhaps you can't do at this stage.
So, I mean, that sounds great. We've got clear context, clear values, capabilities, and people. What if you're helping a product leader who's sitting there going, that's great, I want more of that, then where do they start? How do they encourage those repeated pockets of brilliance?
So I think the starting point for a product leader especially is their own team, is looking at their own team and agreeing a set of values together that they want to work toward, and sign up like a contract, like some people call it product charter, some people might have values or beliefs or whatever it might be, signing up to those and recognizing what those are and the behaviors that are going to come out of those values. And you as a team are signing up to that, not you as a leader imposing that. And that's really key, because what you're trying, what is sort of key to all of this, and it's actually only since doing the talk I listened to a podcast that summed it up really nicely, is we talk about sort of diversity, equity, and inclusion, but for those things to have a real benefit, you also need belonging. And that belonging is the thing that's going to unlock trust, safety, vulnerability. So you're wanting to sort of cultivate that within your own team. Assess where the capabilities are. So assess your whole team in terms of where their capabilities are. And then you can start thinking, how do you want to help those individuals grow? You can also look at it from your functional business. How do we, as a company, score up or measure up on our capabilities? And is there an opportunity where you might be able to start introducing one thing really on a really small iterative way? As you're doing that and you're helping sort of build this confidence within the team you have, they're going to take that into their squads or teams, and it starts to sort of have a domino effect of each individual is then sort of introducing those values and demonstrating those capabilities and sharing that learning with others. And so it sort of spreads outward. I think the key is to be really modest in how you start. So you're not going and going, we're going to be a product-led organization in 3 months and it's all going to be great. You've got to go, where do we think we can make an impact? And what would be a nice first step to demonstrate that we can do some of this great work?
I love that. And going slow makes sense. Pick the winning things first, so that you've got those things to celebrate and bring people on. And so often I talk with product leaders who are moving into that role, emerging leaders who are not really recognizing that the job is slightly different from product manager, and that they're needing to be more of a servient leader, an outcome leader, and that sign up rather than you signing up and agreeing to it rather than being told feels a really crucial part of driving that servient leadership.
Yeah, and it really is, because you're not going to have the impact alone. You as a product leader are not going to be able to walk into an organization and do it all by yourself. And pretty much every organization is on their own product journey. And so they need people who can evangelize and who can make change. But you don't want to be solely swimming against the tide. You want your team on board with you. And so you have to really focus on them and build that trust and show that support to them and really cultivate that, because that's going to pay off in dividends, in terms of they're going to spread that message as well. They'll evangelize with you.
Is there any dependencies, any must-haves that need to be in place in order to make this work?
Yeah, I think I touched on it just briefly there around that belonging piece, and sort of psychological safety I talked about in the talk. This isn't easy stuff. It's building trust. Trust is built slowly. In the talk, I referenced Charles Feltman's A Thin Book of Trust, where he sort of breaks it down to 4 elements. He talks about reliability, competency, care, and sincerity. And how do you show up and how do you demonstrate that in your work? I think where a lot of things fall down is communication. And if we can't communicate clearly, it's hard to demonstrate a lot of those things. It's hard to show that you're being sincere if you don't know how to communicate well or authentically or with vulnerability. So it's really important to sort of build that up. Sorry, I've got a little visitor as well to join.
That's all right, don't worry.
Oh yeah.
So we're getting close to wrapping things up. We're getting close to wrapping things up anyway. So I think perhaps the last thing that would be a useful thing is, if people watching this, what would be a key takeaway you'd like them to walk away with? What's the one thing you'd like to make sure everyone leaves thinking?
So I think the key takeaway for me actually comes back right to the start around that ambition. Be ambitious. Ambition is really good as long as we know what success looks like and being realistic about that. So that success has to be set within your context. Be ambitious, know what success looks like, and go for it. Fantastic.
And one last thing, if anybody wants to get hold of you, how do they find you? Hi there.
So you can get me on LinkedIn, so Pippa Topp, or you can email me directly on pippa.top@eqproductgroup.com.
Fantastic. Thanks ever so much, Pippa. And thank you for listening, everyone.